I wonder what this is going to do to the long-term effect of player growth. I mean, because we're just starting to get into this heavy flow of all this capped, concepts, and I think it's catching on more than it's going away.
Yeah.
I really think in the long term, I'm talking 10, 15 years, if there would be a noticeable decrease in the advancement of players. So much of our discovery and growth as players takes place outside of the box, simply by taking the time to chat with fellow players on all things pool. And that is why we created the Seeking Gravity Square Table Discussions. Join us for a chat about capped tournaments, how they affect the game, the players, the competition, and the pros and cons to this rising trend of tournaments. It's just something that's been on my mind recently is the capped tournaments. As Fargo's become more prevalent and more used for things, which I'm a huge proponent for Fargo. I think it's great if we're going to find some kind of unifying system, because as we've talked about in our previous segments about leagues and how they're all disjointed and regionally and stuff like that with skill levels, Fargo's one of the few things we have to kind of create a cohesive ranking system if we wanted to create fairness. We're now seeing a lot of tournaments being structured around Fargo ratings, specifically being capped tournaments, meaning, let's say Fargo 500, that would be a cap. So nobody above the skill level of Fargo 500 can't participate in that tournament. So I want to just open up the floor and ask you guys your thoughts on capped tournaments, the reasons why they're great, why they're not so great, and let's go from there.
I don't think that there's any reason to have only one method of tournament, but currently in today's kind of available tournaments around, I think there's far too many capped tournaments. I think there needs to be a balance as far as that goes.
Why is that, Rob? So let me interject. So why is that? Why are too many capped tournaments not a good thing?
I think you're just limiting the size of the fields that you can have. And ultimately limiting participation on that. And then you're also limiting the growth of players. If I'm 400 and I just want to play in 400 and under tournaments, who am I going to be playing against? 400 and unders.
Yeah.
Is my Fargo going to go up? No, because when I beat people, I'm beating 400s. Am I going to learn anything from another 400? Probably not. But I think that those cap tournaments have their place. I just think that we should have more. Ultimately, probably, I don't agree with just open tournaments with no kind of handicap, because you're not going to get any turnout there either. But I think we should have these Fargo Fair Match tournaments where there's a balanced race, or it doesn't even have to be a Fargo Fair Match. It can just be a staggered entry fee based on Fargo also. The 400 player pays $25 entry, the 500 pays $50, the 600 pays $75. Now, as a 400, I'm willing to go waste $25, and I'm going to be wasting $25 to play against 600s, right? But I consider that an investment in my game. Oh, it's $25 for a chance to go play against a couple 600s.
To learn something,
against some long races. You're probably the only player in here that's been playing long enough that you played when there were no Fargo ratings, there were no handicaps.
There was no handicaps.
It was just open. Everything was open.
I rode my horse to the pool hall.
Well, I'm not trying to say you're old, Jeff, but you've been playing pool a long time, and all this handicap stuff is realistically pretty young, right? Like,
yeah.
In the terms of pool competition, pool play.
I think it goes back to when I first started playing. Like you said, no handicap tournaments. You just played.
Yeah.
You wanted to get better, you played to get better. Now you got to go play in your Fargo match and call it a day, right? Yeah. So like you said, you're playing a 400 or under, or 500 and under. You're not competing against those guys that are out there that are 600s and 650s and stuff like that. So what are you going to learn? You're going to be limited to what you can learn. You can learn something from everybody, right? Are you learning the right stuff?
Yeah.
Right? You got to watch that.
Learning the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to learn the wrong stuff. That's for sure. And if you got somebody that you're playing and is a lower rated player, they don't know what the right stuff is and what the wrong stuff isn't, right? So they're watching somebody play, and somebody might play a safety, but they may play it just goofy, right? Or they play somebody that's 600, 650, then they see how, oh, that's how it's supposed to be played, right? So now you're learning the right way. So there's right and wrong ways to learn the game.
Right.
But if you're playing in these, and you're limiting yourself to these lower handicap tournaments, you're never going to put yourself out there to learn the other stuff, the right stuff,
So
in a sense, right?
Yeah, I asked Molly especially to be here for this segment because Molly is Fargo 430?
435, yeah.
435.
Don't
and
forget that 5 points.
Yeah.
Get that 5 points. I'm holding on to it. I'm holding on to it.
So Molly, 435, and she runs a weekly tournament director, a open tournament, which
Yeah.
I find very interesting. I would anticipate somebody being in the low and mid 400 range if they had their option of running tournaments. They'd be like, you know what? I don't want these monsters coming in my pool hall every week and winning. I want to see maybe a 500. Like, I would totally expect that, and I think that's a very reasonable thing that somebody Molly's skill level would do. Why do you run a weekly tournament that's completely open?
I think, one, that it includes everybody, anybody that wants to play. It's a Friday night. How do you want to spend your Friday night? Do you want to come out and see if you can grow in your pool game, can socially network, just it's anything. I think that, like Rob was saying, that a lot of tournaments these days are capped, so I like to have one open that anybody that wants to play can come. I have most of my players are regular players that come, and they're all a lot of really high level skill levels because they can't play the other tournaments, which I think is great, because one of my favorite things as a tournament director is when lower level skill players will come, and the races aren't usually too long, just because it'll be maybe a race to 2, which is a little easier for it's a little bit of a meet in the middle situation for high level skill players and lower level, because if it's a shorter race, it's just a little bit easier for lower skill levels to win potentially. And so I think my favorite thing as a tournament director is when lower level skill players will play a higher level, and they'll feel so amazing. And I don't think that they'll get that necessarily, like you're saying. If you're playing only 300, 400s or anything like that, you're not really challenging yourself. And so I really like to see all boards of the game come out and see what they have, and just like Jeff was saying, have fun with it. Like, it's not a serious kind of thing. And so I think sometimes with the caps, I think it has a more of a serious angle, because it's kind of like, make sure your Fargo is this, like you can't go above this. Oh, if you're higher, sorry, you can't play, It's more of a have fun and see how you can improve your game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to articulate this, but the mentality's changed. The confidence that you can gain by, not only just playing these players, but if the balls roll for you and you play really strong, you can win, and what that can do for somebody's growth just mentally moving forward.
Oh yeah.
Because you'll hear this a lot on the pro circuit is, all those guys are so good.
Right.
But when they have somebody come in and they don't even talk about their game, but what they'll talk about is their mental attitude. They're like, FSR right now, he's just scary confident. And that's what they'll talk about, is somebody's mental, being at that point in time, their state. Like, this dude's confident, he's not going to miss. Like, that's just, it's a really important aspect of the game I think people underappreciate. And, believing in yourself and going and competing. Like, I super applaud, 300s going and knowing there's going to be 600s in the room that they're going to be playing. And doing it every week.
Yeah.
I think those are the people who are really, committed to growing their game.
Yeah, and I have many regular players that are 300, 400 skill level, and they come every single week because they want to challenge themselves and they want to get better. And there's no other way, in my opinion, to get better than surround yourself with, people that can help you and help, to show you exactly what you can do. Because you can learn a lot by watching too.
Definitely.
So are we all against cap tournaments?
I don't think I'm against cap
not
tournaments.
against them.
I think like what Rob was saying is there should be an even balance of
Yeah,
if you want to play everybody,
definitely.
you can play. If you want to play just your own, because it does give lower skill levels more confidence if they're not intimidated by super big high dogs come into play. They're kind of more comfortable playing. It really helps to build them up for when they are ready to kind of go and finally play bigger tournaments.
And to Rob's point, I mean, have open tournaments where the money's not so high that it scares away the lower player,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's got to be something that a lower player's willing to pay to get in,
Yeah.
even knowing that, hey, I may end up playing 2 600s in a row,
Yeah.
right? And be 2 and out, but, it didn't cost me $500 to get in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
you're scaring away a lot of the players that want to get better. So
Yeah.
that's why they get stuck playing in those lower handicap tournaments, right?
Yeah, I did
So-
notice. I saw on your comment on a certain tournament director's post about cap tournaments should always be if you are requiring a Fargo like cap, you should be reporting. I kind of wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, and not to get into too much detail about it, but there's some regular local tournaments taking place that are capped at an okay level, but not reporting. So you're holding people to a standard of a certain Fargo, and
Yeah.
then that
And then
tournament's
you're
not
not-
getting reported on a weekly.
That's
Yeah.
a good point.
Yeah.
Because that's also allowing players to kind of stay where they're at and
100%.
rob tournaments for a long time. So anything
Yeah.
that's going to be Fargo based should be
Be
reported. to
reported.
Fargo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the whole system. It's the whole point.
That's
it's the
the
reason
whole
why you hold
point.
those tournament at
Yeah.
the cap that you did.
Right.
And also, you just make Fargo even better. The more things that are getting reported to Fargo, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Right. So we're
I-
going to just
I-
improve it for us here locally.
I do like some of these concepts, like you had mentioned the tiered pay. So if you're lower,
Yeah.
the tiered payment system. I think that one's really interesting. For the first time a month or two ago, I played in a Fargo Fair Match tournament, and I really enjoyed that one. And it was very interesting to see the outcomes, right? So if you had large disparities in Fargo ratings, you had really huge splits, like 9-3 races.
Yeah.
But most of them were usually somewhere more respectable, like a 7-4, 7-5, and a lot of them were heads-up play. And a lot of the bigger dogs came in there, and they were sweating that action. They were sweating those 8-4
yeah.
races.
Yeah.
I had an 8-4 race
Especially on
too.
a 7-foot table. I mean, if you think
Yeah.
about Fargo rating, it came to be on 9-foot tables.
Yeah.
It didn't come to be on 7-foot tables. So a 9-3 race on a 9-foot table and a 9-3 race on a 7-foot table, two
Very
different worlds.
different, yeah.
Two different worlds. Because somebody going to 3 on a 7-foot table can get out on you really fast. But a 9-foot table, maybe not so much.
Yeah, especially because I think a lot of the leagues, the majority play out of bars or places like that, and they usually have 7-foot bar boxes. So
Yeah.
if you're maybe a lower skill level and you only need that handicap, but you're so good on a bar box, and somebody who's used to playing on a 9-foot, they have to come down and kind of adapt. You could have the advantage if you are the lower skill level player and you've been playing longer on the bar box.
What percentage would you guys put your finger on right now of open stuff versus capped stuff? Because when Rob, you said you want to see the tides change a little bit more, and I agree.
So-
I wonder where your head's at, where you think what's the percentage of capped structured tournaments versus open?
I don't, because one thing is I wouldn't even really consider Mulaney's tournament a straight up open, no handicap, because the race itself is kind of
Yeah.
a handicap.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? It's given a handicap to lower players. So when we're talking not weekly tournaments, and I think that's exactly how weekly tournaments should always be ran, just open. There should be no handicaps in weeklies. But when we're talking tournaments that are monthly or like there's a big entry fee or what
Yeah.
have you, I think there's like maybe 2 a year that are open.
They're not a lot.
There's not a lot.
Especially when you start hitting Jeff's 650 range. I mean, I'm struggling to find terms. I know Jeff's probably like, well, there's a tournament, I got to jump at it because it's my one in the next quarter to
Yeah.
poke at.
And
Yeah.
when I say 2 a year, I mean, I'm not talking Washington. That would be including Oregon, like one in Washington, one in Oregon that's truly an open.
Open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No handicaps whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked me that I was giving lessons to the other day, what makes me choose what tournament I'm going to play in. And I told them it's got to be an open tournament.
Yeah.
right? But it's got to be, everything's got to line up. And when there's only 1 or 2 a year, you know,
Well,
Yeah.
you got to hit them just right.
And Ox isn't an open, but it's about as close as you get to an open in Washington State.
Yeah, 660 and under.
There's only maybe 10 players in the state that are over that handicap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of a silly number now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I feel like the Fargo system and the tournaments like that have really kind of switched their direction and veered more towards like being inclusive on the lower skill players because, I mean, like respectfully, you were playing before Fargo was invented,
Right.
and so you know you guys have all been playing, practicing. You guys used to play for money, really helped build you guys up on the way you play. So now that they're kind of shifting and making these you all that played before there was any caps and everything like that, you guys are kind of looking for tournaments like that where you're able to just kind of play anybody and I think it should be maybe like a 60-40 split of 60 open tournaments and 40%, just because I think, like you said, 2 or 3 a year, like that's really tough for as many good pool players as there are in the United States and even the world, having a bigger tournament, you'd really see some great matches, some great tournaments like that if they made it all inclusive.
It feels like, yeah, I guess discouraging for you to want to keep your Fargo up. I mean, you're getting penalized. It feels like you're getting penalized for getting better at pool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the better you get, the less opportunity you're going to have to play, which it seems completely backwards.
Yeah.
But also, when you think about this, and you're the only one that can tell us this for sure, but I'm pretty dang sure there's way more to play now than there was 10 years ago before Fargo, because now players will come out of the woodwork to play all these handicap tournaments. There's way more competitive pool players now, in my feeling, than there ever has been. I feel like pool's been growing exponentially.
Yeah, it has.
I wonder what this is going to do to the long-term effect of player growth. I mean, because we're just starting to get into this heavy flow of all this capped, concepts, and I think it's catching on more than it's going away.
Yeah.
I really think in the long term, I'm talking 10, 15 years, if there would be a noticeable decrease in the advancement of players. I mean, if you're only waiting for those 450 tournaments to come around, I mean, are you?
That's where you're going to be happy playing.
And there's plenty of them for you to pick from. You stay in your safe place.
Yeah.
Are you really going to grow like you would if you had to pull up your pants and go out and play opens and stuff like that? It's just a thought in my mind. I wonder what it's going to do to the overall player.
It all depends on the player.
And I think on the other side too of like if you say you're a low player and you play a 300 cap and you're say a 290 and you play people that are having the worst day of they're playing and then you can't even play that tournament again and then you have to go play 450s and they have all been playing. It's kind of like you're not building your confidence as a player because you're not able to grow, but then you can't even play the tournament that you used to play, so it's just a really tough spot.
Yeah. I think this is a good point to bring up. I think this is what leagues are for. Mm-hmm. I think that's what leagues are for.
Yeah.
I don't think fundamentally tournaments were designed for you to test your mettle against everyone who's exactly your same skill range, right? I mean, that's really not.
they're two different things, right?
Yeah. I mean, the tournaments are designed to see who can come out on top, and it's not who can come out on top who's not on top, right? Like, it's a really interesting
Who's
concept.
really on top?
So I think leagues is the ideal place to nurture skill, get coached, gain that confidence, shake some of those nerves in competition play. And I think a lot of tournaments should more or less be left alone to, for those people who work hard, put in the time, and want to go out there and play. Because again, you shouldn't be penalized by getting better at pool and having less options to go out and participate in.
Yeah.
Right? It's backwards to me.
Fair match. Just go to fair match.
So you're all for the Fargo fair match tournaments?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it necessarily even has to be fair match. I think the one you played in wasn't really fair match. It was just, you got a player got a rack for every 50 points of Fargo or something like that.
Too. That's what it was. I've seen
Yeah,
that one too.
it was their
Which
thresholds.
is fine too,
Yeah.
because then you open it up to everybody. But I do like fair match the best.
But I think if they open it up that way, they're going to get more players. And I mean, they're having a lot of tournaments that there's a lot of money. The entry fees are out of control. which is all fine and good for people that want to do that. But for 99% of the pool players out there, they don't have $500 to throw around to get in a pool tournament, even for the lower rated. I've seen some of the $300 and $400 and under tournaments that they're wanting $300 and $400 to get into.
Yeah, that's a
Right?
really good point, because I think we're all fooling ourselves thinking we're going to make a living off of playing tournaments, right? So like that can be a huge deterrent for people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't play pool to win a purse. I play to win. That's the only motivator I got. I don't go there.
Right.
I mean, it's nice to get your money back and then some, but like I'm there to win. That's by far the most important thing. If I
Yeah.
could win the tournament and not get paid, or get paid and like go a couple more rounds down out, I would rather win the tournament and not win a purse.
No, but you're a pool player. You know, a lot of these guys are pool players that don't care if they get better, but they want to play in them, right?
They're gamblers.
They got those
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You got a lot of gamblers that play pool that will play just to play,
Yeah.
to see where they can get.
So I
you know?
I know some players, I'm like, I don't even know if you like pool. You just like to gamble. Because they'll gamble on anything.
Right?
Heads or tails. $100.
Yeah, right.
So I think one of the things that we should probably loop back around and talk about is the fact that people, I see this all the time on tournament postings. I don't have a Fargo. How do I get in your tournament? And, you know, well, leagues do you play? I don't play any leagues. I'm like, well, you know, I can't do anything for you. So for those people who don't have a Fargo or a robust established, and robustness means you've had 200 plus racks reported to Fargo. If you're not, BCA is another avenue, so you can get Fargo reporting. The other avenue is Salado. Salado is a thing that came out a couple years ago, where you can just challenge somebody. You just meet up you can even be your home table or go to the local bar or pool hall. You get on there and you can report your match to Fargo, and all those racks get immediately reported and it's instant.
Yeah.
It's instant. You hit go and then it's in Fargo, and then the next day of course is when you'll
And
see
you can also set a fair match in there. So you can set whatever race you want it to be. So
So Salado's a great way
So
for
it'll
people
even out, yeah.
to get integrated into Fargo, so that you can start playing what seems to be a growing trend in cap tournaments.
Yeah.
definitely.
I think Jeff should just get on there and sandbag, get that Fargo down.
Gotta have everybody come over and I gotta start losing.
You're giving lessons.
Give lessons. I can give a lot of lessons.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy
Yeah.
surrounding that whole Salado being able to submit.
Yeah.
Because it is just a one-on-one thing. There's no real witness of what really happened, right?
Yeah, there's that dark side of pool where BCA, of course, is all structured and that gets reported. Salado's this backdoor kind of almost thing where I'm not going to lose. So if we go Salado, I'm still going to try as hard. But again, you got that other side of it where like, okay, if we both agree, you know, hit go.
Yeah.
And what you won that game? Good job.
Yeah.
What if I'm a
You know?
496 today and there's a 495 and under tournament that I want to play next month?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm just going to go over to Malini's and win 0 racks, and that should give me a point or two down.
Yeah.
Well, she ain't going to lose anyways. She ain't going to give me anything.
She's underrated. She's underrated for sure. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I do like about the Salado matches in Fargo, though, I think everybody here knows you can have your Fargo matches either be public or not public.
Yes.
But Salado matches are always public. You can't hide those.
That's probably something they thought about. We want to make sure nothing shady's going on. So you're going to see this so they can go into your account back, this is shady.
Well, and then another
Right.
thing.
Well, plus it also you don't have to report to Fargo either if you're playing
you don't,
Salado.
right? Yeah, you actually pay to submit.
Yeah,
to
it's a buck or
Salado.
two to report
It's a
to.
buck
For every
like up to
game or
9.
something
A
games.
race
Yeah.
to 9 is a buck, and then it
Yeah,
gets more.
$2 or whatever it is.
With the handicap tournaments, I
Yeah.
like that a lot of these handicap tournaments are now saying, if you want to be in this tournament, you have to have your Fargo be public.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. That's the way it should be. Like, if
Yeah.
you want to enter a handicap tournament, you're 500 or under, we need to see your history and make sure you haven't been, like, just intentionally dogging games, losing to 300s and what have you.
I haven't verified this. I know when I first started using Fargo a couple of years ago and started using the app, you had to toggle it public. It's
Yeah.
by default is private.
Yeah.
They should change
I
that the
wish
other
it
way
was-
around
I
because
wish
it's
it was
silly.
opposite.
Right.
Honestly, I wish there wasn't even an option to hide. You know, it should just be out
Yeah,
there.
that's true.
But it should be at minimum public by default.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else on this, guys? You good?
No.
All right. Good job, guys. That was awesome.